Hello, everybody, and welcome to Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You've got questions. We've got guesses. I'm Nash. Been doing this stuff for a ridiculous amount of time, but in addition to that, I'm also an IT professional. With me, as always, my producer, Mike Gearman, who also works in IT. If you have tech questions for us, you go ahead and send those off to requests at radiodeadair.com. We've already got a few waiting. We have some room for more, but we also got some news to look over this week. And there's a saying that people started to put into effect that everyone seems to have forgotten. We sort of accept it now that the cloud is some sort of magical realm, but all the cloud is...
I still have a coworker who doesn't quite accept that the cloud is computers.
All the cloud is somebody else's computer. That's all the cloud means.
Yes, that's what I told them. And what happened, I think I've mentioned this before, and they're still hung up on this. One of my jobs is occasionally computer security, basically review. I look over the packages and say, no, you need to change this verbiage. No, you need to do this. No, you need to do that. Okay. And one of my coworkers said, aren't you going to be glad when everything goes to the cloud and you won't have to do this anymore? What do you mean? That we still have to review the cloud packages. They still go through the same kind of certifications. No, they don't, because they're not computers.
What do you think they are, Smurfs?
I'm really unclear with this particular person what they think they are. I mean, I just don't know.
It's like rainbow farts or some shit. What the fuck do you think the cloud is? Damn it!
I mean, Nash, on your other show, we have people who regularly misunderstand what you and I think are common terms. So the idea that it hasn't sunk in for some people that the cloud is not actually is, it is computers, is it's not that surprising when you really think about it.
It really sunk in this week for an Australian company that handles a pension fund worth $135 billion.
Because of the vagaries of the internet, I'm gonna repeat that word, billion, with
Billion.
Yes. Now, I'm not sure if that's American billion or Australian billion dollars.
I think it's American billion.
Either way, I think the conversion rate is close enough that you're going, no, it's not going to Chuck E. Cheese money. It's buying the entirety of Chuck E. Cheese everywhere.
It's kind of like the difference between Fahrenheit and Celsius. At a certain point, it doesn't matter.
Indeed.
So what happened was a catastrophic, cannot believe this happened, a catastrophic loss of data. UniSuper, they had some backups with a different provider and they were able to recover their data, but Google lost all of it. Just that. The idea of the number of redundancies and failures.
Well, okay, so the way I read this article, it wasn't redundancies and failures that was the problem. It was the fact that someone said, no, turn off, delete their account. It wasn't, oh, the main fell down. Oh, the same flaw happened in the secondary and the tertiary. Is no, just get rid of their account. And it was like, yeah, delete the whole thing. There was apparently no check or balance in to say, yeah, just no, we can delete this account.
They have safeguards, but none of them worked. Literally, Google has safeguards in place.
The safeguard is someone named Bob who was off that weekend.
It's remarkable. I have never seen a cloud provider have a failure of this kind. This is just remarkable, especially considering the amount of money and the size of the account they were dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. Like the guy mentioned this in the articles, someone said, the guy who said, hey, we should split this up among multiple clouds and have multiple backups in multiple places. That person, if he's still working for this fund and he didn't retire, should get a massive bonus. And if he did retire, they should bring him back in, hire him for a day, and give him a massive bonus.
What
Billions.
what this represent? This is now the reason this is making headlines is because this is such a large account. This is such a large company. This is the amount of money involved. You have to wonder how many people this happens to on a daily basis. You just never hear about because they're not this big.
They're getting customer service and not. I control $156 billion that we manage through you. Give me your vice president. No, give me the president of this branch of Google.
Because I can speak from experience just trying to have to work with freaking YouTube. They will screw some shit up and just be like, we don't care. We don't have to talk to you. We're never going to. Your shit's gone. Bye-bye. We're going to mess this up and you can't do anything about it. Too bad.
See, you or I couldn't get a hold of someone at YouTube. If suddenly, say, I'm going to pick something I've been watching a bit of lately. Saturday Night Live's archives vanished. YouTube accidentally deleted them. I feel confident they could get someone on the phone and say, no, we need you to fix this.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. We don't know exactly how routine this sort of mistake is or problem is.
Well, I mean, the article says this has not happened before. So I absolutely believe that other people have had their cloud stuff destroyed, just not in this exact manner.
Well, I think, or they just don't matter. Because it's important to remember.
It could be someone's had it happen before, but they didn't do anything about it because they didn't notice. They forgot they were doing something in Google Cloud and that their account got deleted.
Or they just lie.
They've not noticed.
They lie. Yeah. They lie all the time. It's kind of a thing in Silicon Valley. It's how you function is lying. It's how you raise money. It's how you determine the valuation of your company. It's how everything works. They just lie. We're going to have full self-drive next year, Mike.
We don't. I saw my first Cybertruck in person. I saw at work. Like, literally, I was walking out to my car. And parked across from my car was a Cybertruck.
See, what you need to do is you need to leave a slice of bologna on it.
Well, I gotta find out which of my coworkers it is first.
No, you don't.
No, yes, I do.
Why?
Because it's important. Why? Because I need to know what level of mockery to apply.
Well,
if it is no. There are certain people that I'm just gonna shake my not one of those very specific 6 people. Then yes, the mockery will be fierce. But I'm just going to say, having seen one in person now, they are even goofier looking in person than in all the pictures I'd seen.
But Mike, your baloney has a first name. It's Fuck Up the Stainless Steel. Your baloney has a second name. It's Fuck Up the Stainless Steel.
I also want to find out if we have any cameras in the parking lot pointing in that direction first. And that I think is a fair consideration.
Okay. True. All right, next up, this is, God, make it stop. So we've got some news, rumors, reports about the next AMD CPU. Part of this makes sense.
Yes.
For the not Zen 4, which is what's Zen 4. Actually, that is what's the current one. Zen 5 is going to be the Ryzen 9000 series that's coming, the one to follow. Still going to be using the X670 chipset and the B650. Maybe they'll have a new chipset, maybe they won't, but they're still going to be using the same platform. But they are going to end support for Windows 10, considering Windows 10 is supposed to lose support, this year? Later on
No,
this year?
next year, 2025.
Yeah, considering that Windows 10 is supposed to lose, update support coming up next year, that makes sense.
This is not a surprise. Yeah, this is my entire lack of surprise here. Yeah, no, makes sense. The fact that they want to then focus really strongly on AI and maybe branding their CPUs with AI prefixes, guys, you really shouldn't, because we're talking 2025, 2026 for this, right?
Uh-huh.
And the AI bubble may well have burst by then, and you don't want to have it on stuff to remind people of that crap.
The next 12 core, the one I have right now, is the 7900X. That's the 12 core CPU that they have in the current lineup. Its successor is going to be named the Ryzen AI 9 HX170. What? The fuck does that mean? The fuck is the fuck?
I really do think they just throw darts at, they throw darts at a board and go work. I mean, other than the AI part, which, like, I swear to God, I saw on Amazon someone selling electric teeth brush with AI as one of the things. I'm like, no.
See, right now, the way that the product stack works is if it has a 500, that's a 6-core processor. That's a Ryzen 5 6-core processor. That's the 600. The 5600, the 7600, the 3600, Ryzen 5 6-core processor. The 7 and 800 are 8-core processors. So you have the 7800, the 7800X3D, the 5800, and then if it's a Ryzen 9, it has a 12 or 16 core. So you have the 7900 is 12, the 7950 is 16. It's not like people automatically know what those are, but if you know the product numbers, you know what those mean. What does HX170 mean?
Well, okay, so the report also says that it's an initial report, and it seems to borrow heavily from Intel's current naming scheme. I'm thinking someone may just be making stuff up.
Maybe.
Until this is released with that name, I'm going to take, other than the AI portion of it, which is too believable, I'm going to take the rest of that with a grain of salt.
Yes.
What amused me, though, was the common name for the set.
What?
The 7040 series is Phoenix. The 8040 series is Hawk Point.
Okay.
And then the next generation is called Strix Point.
Okay.
Now, you and I used to be vampire LARPers, and we remember Strix.
I do not.
Strix is a real word. It is a bird of ill omen. This is not a thing you name your chipset after.
Well, what this AI means, and they've already added this to their 8000 series APUs. They've added something called a neural processing unit, the NPU. It's not a neural processor, despite whatever they say.
No.
It's just supposedly
this in here is a neural processor.
Supposedly, it's a part of the chip that's been designed to work with AI type applications, but we don't exactly know how, because there are no applications yet that work with these NPUs.
No.
Like nothing.
And
we don't even...
indeed there may not be much in the way of applications that work with these by the time the bubble bursts.
Like, I expect that somehow this might go with Intel's Microsoft's Copilot in Windows. I presume it might be part of that, but that's a whole lot. Remember when NVIDIA when they released their GPUs, they had the RTX GPUs. They had this specific tensor cores and RT cores that were meant for ray tracing and other DLSS stuff. And when they released them, nothing could use that shit.
Because no one was putting ray tracing in their games yet.
Nothing could use it for up to a year before enough games to justify it. So that entire first series, the RTX 2000 series.
Well, and let's be clear. It was a chicken egg or horse cart situation. Before people could really put a lot of ray tracing stuff in there, there had to be a chip or at least a programming interface to support it. But if there's no programming interface or chip to support it, why put ray tracing in? So it was probably intended to be a loss leader there.
But the result was the RTX 20 series was dead. People just said, "Yeah, I'm going to keep using my GTX 1080. It's still about the same.
It's just as good."
Yeah, because it just doesn't have RT stuff. What's happening here is there are parts of the silicon that could be used for other things, more important and better things, that are instead being set aside for this NPU shit. And no one knows exactly how it works or what it's going to be for. It's just, it's considering how crap AI is and how crap it promises to be, it's just going to be a dead part of the silicon. Unless somebody else finds a way to figure out a way to repurpose it to make it actually useful.
It's useful for something. Well, useful for something actually useful.
Right.
I mean, if the first repurposing of it becomes, hey, turns out there's a really clever way to break encryption with this, that's gonna be a lot of people going, oh no.
Oh no. Yeah. So the last one story this week, this is actually really kind of cool. For the longest time, RAM has been consigned to DIMM sticks in one way or another. There's SODIMMs that are used for laptops, and there's DIMMs that are used for desktops, and they're just sticks that are kind of like Nintendo cartridges. You click them in place, and that's how they work. You just click them in.
Which is useful because it makes it easy to replace them when one goes bad,
right?
Or you want to upgrade.
And it's been that way for years and years and years. But a problem has popped up with DDR5. Now on desktop, it's not an issue, but on laptops, RAM has to work in a lower voltage, just because laptops. If you had the full voltage RAM in a laptop, it would drain the battery so much faster. So they've designed for DDR4, DDR3, they had low power versions that were specifically made for laptops. But the problem with DDR5 is reducing the power. It doesn't work quite right across a DIMM. So what they've had to do, and this is really kind of fascinating, they've redesigned the interface for RAM going forward for DDR5. This is the LPCAMM2 memory module, and this is a crucial start in these. This looks like it's going to become the next standard for RAM sticks on laptops. What it is instead of a stick, because the way the stick plugs in, the metal fingers that interact, the back of this thing, this whole thing is like sort of like the pins on the pin and grid array on a
on the CPU.
On a CPU. It's got a little socket it lays inside of, and then you screw it down into place. And it has all of this pin grid array that touches all the way across. And that's how they're getting around the voltage issue to be able to get the DDR5 speeds using low voltage RAM. Because going forward, what?
Nice.
Yeah, because
I'm saying nice.
Oh yeah. Because going forward, these CPUs, we're kind of in a transitionary period with DDR4, DDR5. There are the other way around this, of course, is to hardwire RAM to the motherboard, and you can never upgrade it. It'll work. You put DDR5 on there.
Don't get me wrong. There were companies back in the day, and probably still are some now,
Apple.
that solder their RAM in place so you can't upgrade your laptop.
Apple, they do that. Yeah, when you order an Apple laptop, you have to order all the RAM you're ever going to get on that laptop, because that's all you're going to get ever. But with this, they've managed to get around the need to hard solder RAM to the motherboard. Now, why this is useful is for every other manufacturer. I'm sure they'd love to solder the RAM to the motherboard, but that means every motherboard would have to be its own SKU. You would have to make specific motherboard SKUs. You'd have to have a 16 gig version, a 32 gig version, a 64 gig version of the entire motherboard. And that's in addition to, you already have to have a different SKU for the CPU and potentially graphics card that's already hardwired on, because those don't come off anymore either. So that would be adding an entirely different combination of SKUs, which that's a lot of motherboards to have to make. This is a nice way of reducing the costs for motherboard manufacturers, because they can, instead of having to make one size fits all.
Now, they do still have to have, I think they still will have multiple SKUs for, basically, you've got one space for one memory module, you've got space for two memory modules, you've got space for, on the rare laptop, 4 memory modules, but that's going to be a very rare laptop.
But the other nice thing about this is, with DIMMs, you require them in pairs. In order to get the most effectiveness out of them, you have to excuse me. Double data rate RAM, which is what DDR stands for, requires you to have 2 sticks of RAM you can put 1 stick of RAM in a system, but its effectiveness at its speed will plummet because it's designed to work in concert with a second stick. This doesn't need it. This is the whole thing. There's no need for a second stick with this. This is one singular, all by itself, the whole package, just one unit. So if you want to add 64 gigs, you don't have to get 2 32 gig sticks. You just get one 64 gig stick. You want 32 gigs, you get a 32 gig stick. 16, get a 16 stick. Instead of that cuts down on waste, for one thing. It's less things you have to manufacture. It's, all in all, this is a neat concept. I would honestly like to see something like this for, like, when we get to DDR6, I would like to see something like this for desktops.
I would like to see this is okay for laptops. I'd like to see the price come down, but that's going to happen.
Yeah, the price could come down, but I would love to see something like this for a laptop, because in addition, you can also put a cooler on this thing. A heat sink.
It would be easier to mount a heat sink on this.
Yeah, it'd be, so you could, which would potentially add a whole new dimension of RAM overclocking with this form factor. So
yeah, now they do say that this initial release is not going to be at the full speed. No. They don't expect to get to that full speed, the full speed of the spec, until 2026.
Right, but they can get it up to 7,500. Which is pretty good. I mean,
for a laptop, that's gonna be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, because my desktop RAM runs at 6,000. This is laptop RAM that can run up to 7,500. That's pretty nice. So yeah, I like it's not that. One of the things about when they upgrade the RAM is you can't keep the same form factor anyway. Like DDR4 RAM and DDR5 RAM, they changed the way the sticks work. They're still sticks. They're still DIMM sticks, but they're different sizes with different notches on them. If you're going to have to change it anyway, why not improve the form factor? Which I like. And we have to change it anyway. Let's improve the form factor. And this is really a significant improvement. I love this. like this is not within the same generation. Like if this is what DDR5 looks like for laptops, I would love to see this for desktops.
Yeah.
But that's, by the time we get to DDR6, I don't even know if we're still going to be doing laptops or desktops the same way anyway. We're just going to have to wait and see. Things always have the potential to be weird. All right, that is our news stories this week. Let's get to our questions. Double check to see if anything new. Yeah, I got another new one came in at the back end.
My suggestion on the 3 we have so far, then not including the one you just got, is 1, 3, then 2.
1, 3, then 2?
Okay, yeah.
Look here. Yeah, 2's pretty long-winded. Okay, let's start with Blake's. Hi, Nash, Mike, and all the kitties. My E key fell out of my MSI laptop keyboard with the carriage attached. I've tried reattaching it, and it sounds like it's snapping back into place, but after a little while, it just gets loose again. During these temporary fixes, the squishy knob on the keyboard gets loose. Right now, it's barely staying together with the knob underneath. If I press the key gently, is there any way I can do? Is there any way I can fix this? Do I have to send it to a fix-it place that isn't Geek Squad, Blake?
Okay, so you didn't tell us what model laptop it was.
Yeah,
which
that will
makes
matter.
It makes a huge difference because various models of MSI laptops have either a trivially removable keyboard or a next to impossible to remove keyboard.
It all
depends.
Next
to impossible, you're breaking out spudgers, knives, and a soldering gun to remove the keyboard. And others, you're taking off a bezel, undoing a handful of screws, and unplugging cable and reversing that for the new keyboard.
But to break down what's happened here, the keyboards on laptops have this little scissor connector type thing, typically, for a very low profile button. Desktop keyboards work just completely differently. They have typically there's
normally you can get effectively a laptop keyboard for your desktop.
It's a MSI GE75 Raider 10 SE.
MSI, repeat that.
GE75 Raider 10 SE.
Okay, well, continue talking. I'm gonna look this guy up.
But laptops have this. I'll try and find a picture here to show you what I'm talking about. The scissor mechanism. Yeah, here it is. Here we go. And this is interesting because it actually shows the even worse implementation, which was Apple's butterfly mechanism, which caused even
garbage.
Yeah, it caused even more problems. Yeah, these are the main mechanism you're going to see on laptops for keyboards is this scissor mechanism on the left, and it sort of works. It works a bit like this. It's you push it in, and it pushes the button down, and then it springs back up. The trouble here is it's very tiny and it's very fragile. When that keyboard, what you're putting it back into place a little bit, but it is very, very, very difficult to repair these once one of them has busted off. There's a little tiny nubs on there. There's also clips on the keyboard itself they're all made of plastic. And once it's assembled once, it's not made to come apart, which incidentally, these things are hideous to freaking clean. That's why laptop keyboards are just a nightmare. You clean them, you just, you're lucky. You get by. But once they're messed up, they're kind of messed up. And unfortunately, your only course of action is to replace the entire keyboard. Now, you send that keyboard back to somebody like the factory, the OEM folks. They have the mechanisms to put those back on there. They have replacement plastic bits to clip in and all that. You don't have access to those. So All right, you looked it up. How hard is it to get that keyboard out, Mike?
So the keyboard itself is $26.
That's not bad.
However, it's sort of the description on how it's attached is welded in.
That's not good.
So, now I'm looking at a 2-year-old Reddit link right now, which is, how you find things on the internet these days. And it's saying it's 50 to 60, but I found the keyboard on Amazon for 25, which is fair. The price dropped 2 years later. Yeah, it's welded with an electric iron. If you install it yourself, you'll also need to prepare a brand new palm rest. It's plastic welded to the chassis, but also there's some YouTube videos about it for slightly different models on how it's involved, but it looks like it's relatively involved, and it'd be I'd say an atypical task for even your local computer repair shop.
A lot of the gaming laptops are like that. The business laptops, like Dell, I've had experience with Dell's business laptops. They make it so that if you just push a button and blink at it and the keyboard pops right out. And the reason is because those are made to stay in service. They have to keep going. You can't send the whole laptop back to Dell every time they have to replace it. So they make it where the keyboard's easy to replace. They do that with HP. I've seen them do it as well. The gaming laptops, on the other hand, well, how old is this, by the way? How long have you had it? I've seen, let's see, how old is this unit? Tennessee. Oh, this is Intel 10th gen. Yeah, that's out of warranty. That's definitely out of warranty. So unfortunately, you got to post-cord. Yeah, you can contact MSI. They can possibly repair it for you, but they're going to have to do it at cost.
And they're gonna want to charge you probably a couple $100.
At least $100, if not more. And you're also going to be responsible for shipping costs. I guarantee you.
Now, there's a YouTube video you might check out. It's strangely only 2 minutes long, which concerns me, but it says it's how to replace a key on your MSI laptop's keyboard by Egghead Fixers.
Okay.
They seem to be able to replace it, and said they start off with this is for tutorial purposes only. If you break your keyboard, it's not our fault.
So those are you can try to mess around with it, but those are your options. Unfortunately, it's not a durable connector. It never has been, and they've been using this kind of connector on keyboards for decades now. I can remember going back as far as the 2000s. I've seen these on laptops. That scissor mechanism thing, even on cheap, switch and dome, keyboards, not even mechanical switches, but the dome, rubber connector on, I forget what the actual term for it is. Even there, they use some sort of cap that just clicks over, which is a lot easier. It might be custom, it might be proprietary to that keyboard, but it's still not the whole scissor design. The scissor design is almost exclusively, I've never seen anything that's not a laptop. So it's a bad design. Yeah, I wish I had better news for you, but just that's the way of these stupid things. And the fact that no one has come up with it, well, I take that back. Someone has come up with something better. There are laptops that have mechanical keyboards. And they're a version of cherry switches that are made for laptops. And they have keycaps that go on them just like regular cherry switches. They just push their tension. It's tension connection, right? What is that word? Yeah. That's what holds the keycap in place. And they're easy to replace, easy to pop off, easy to clean the keyboard. Unfortunately, that's also very expensive. So Yeah, there's really no other. Oh, and oh yeah, something that. Oh crap! Hello. Ah crap! Stop doing that. Stupid thing. Um.
Feedback?
Yeah, a little bit noise. Another thing about this that doesn't. It's probably not going to help the situation. Is It's a. Can you get the picture up here on the screen to show everybody? Come on, there it is. Yeah, the other thing that's probably not going to help is it's an LED keyboard.
Yeah.
That adds the cost right there. That shoots the cost way the heck up. There's not a whole lot else you can do about that.
I'm going to tell you what the best suggestion I saw on a couple different Reddit threads about this was, and you're going to hate it. Use an external keyboard.
Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah. Sorry, I wish we had better news for you. This is just the way of it. My apologies. All right, you want to go to this last one. This is from Shelly. Hey, Nash and Mike. I've got an older Dell laptop, Precision 7540, and I've started to notice something that has me concerned. When everything is quiet, sometimes the laptop will start making this really high-pitched, whiny noise. It's really soft, but I can definitely hear it, and it gets louder when I put my ear to the screen. Is this a symptom of something bad? Thank you, Shelly.
Okay, I really think that's a fan, and it just happens to be that when you're getting closer to the screen, you're getting closer to where the fan is.
Or it's coil whine.
Yeah, could be coil whine.
In which case, you're fine. We've talked about coil whine before. This is a weird phenomenon with electronic components that when they have enough electricity passing through them, they start to vibrate, move. There's some sort of interaction that happens, and that's what that noise is being generated. There's actual noise from the components, from actual electronic parts, which shouldn't generate noise. Yeah, maybe resonate. They make it's this high-pitched, whiny noise. Fortunately, it's harmless. It's just annoying. Coil whine is typically it's happened when you actually use more power. The more power you push through a circuit, the more likely you'll get coil whine, depending on something. Like a lot of graphics cards right now, you'll find people complain, "Oh, it's terrible coil whine." Yeah, well, you're running 600 watts to the graphics card. What the hell do you expect? The good news here is it's fine. It's annoying, it's irritating, and if you're someone who has problems with background noise, oops, but
yeah,
it's also not going to impact the device itself. It's not going to have any problems with how it works. If that's your fan, I really don't think that's a problem either.
No, unless it starts getting really loud, then you just look into replacing the fan. And as we were just talking about office laptops, the Precision 7540 to me is an office laptop. I think it might be very similar to a model we used at work. And if that's the case, fan replacement on those guys is generally pretty easy. Again, it's a part that goes bad on a regular enough basis that someone in IT goes, no, we need to be able to take this out with just taking off the back panel, 2 screws, unplug, replug, 2 screws, back panel back on.
So it's not, I would not be super concerned about this. Unless your temperatures start to change on your laptop. My gut is saying it's coil whine. I've experienced that enough with a lot different kinds of electronics. Battery charges a lot for some weird reason. Laptop bricks, I've had it happen a lot with those too, because those are just transformers. They're power supplies that turn wall AC power into DC power. So those run a lot of electricity through them. So those tend to have coil whine in them too. It's not a big problem. It's just an irritant. so I wouldn't be too worried about it. Got another. I think this is a quickish one until we get till Josh's. Josh has got a big one. Not like that.
He gave us all the details.
Yeah.
Is what Josh did.
Chris came in with this. Says, hello, Nash, Mike, and assorted critters. I'm about to start saving to get a new computer. It's going to take a while as I want a good gaming one that can run high-end games in 4K and such. But I want to start figuring out what I need to budget. I have a friend that can build one for me, which I figure is overall cheaper. But if she is unable to, for some reason, he recommended a company site to build a pre-built one from. My current computer is an MSI machine I bought off Amazon in 2019 for $1,700. Starting to give me issues, though it's served faithfully for a while now. Thanks in advance. Well, you don't give us the stats on what you're using right now, but running high-end games in 4K, if you have a 4K monitor.
Yeah,
all right.
Necessary.
Let me just put in my head, figure out what you'll need. A B650 motherboard would be fine. You don't need to have an X670. That's not really going to make enough of a difference. So a B650 motherboard. If you're concerned about high frame rate gaming, then you want a 7800 X3D, 32 to 64 gigs of DDR5, 750. Well, actually, you want to do 4K, so probably 1,000-watt power supply. What you're mainly going to be shooting for here is you're going to want to get something like a 4070 Ti and up. Yeah, Ruru2 says, do they have a Micro Center nearby? That would be a really big help as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Micro Center will do a good job building a computer. Surprisingly, they are a really good company in that regard. Not Best Buy. Don't do Best Buy. Best Buy bad. But you're going to be wanting for 4K gaming. You're going to want to shoot for at least a 4070 Ti.
Yeah,
that's what you need to get about 60 frames per second in really high end stuff. I've got the RTX 4080, and it can do 4K with stuff like Fallout 4, and I'm pretty sure with newer games it could handle that as well. But that's a pricey card. Even the 4070 Ti is somewhere around $800. So 4K gaming is not really considered mainstream. It is kind of a high-end thing. If you are willing to put that kind of money in, trying to tally up in my head, I would figure what you'd need for this is CPU, motherboard, RAM, power supply, case, about $1,000.
Yeah.
And
now, obviously you can spend a lot more,
right?
But that's your minimum.
And then you add however much a graphics card would be for it as well. So that'd be another $800 to $1,000 add-on as well. Pretty much you're looking for at about a $2,000 system to get you where you want to go. You can go bigger than that if you want to get a used RTX 4080 is a really good deal right now. You can find those at around under $1,000 for one of those, considering those were like new for $1,300. 4080 is an excellent value if you can find it for the right price. I really don't think spending more than $800 on a graphics card is going to be worth it, especially because
unless you are somehow doing this for job and you're making money off of this, in which case
yeah, the 7900 GRE is a good value. It's just if you care about fidelity at 4K gaming, it's the ray tracing and other elements of them, you'll be hindered on the AMD. AMD, I tend to find they're good for value. If you have not a lot of money to spend and you want to get really good performance out of the graphics card and you don't care as much about ray tracing, AMD is an excellent value for gaming.
Yep.
But if you're really going for the super high-end fidelity, right now the current generation of AMD cards just can't keep up. They tried, they couldn't do it. We'll have to
maybe
see.
The next generation will. We'll see.
Yeah. So yeah,
and we're going to see on that pretty soon. Yeah.
before the end of the year, they're going to be we're going to have an announcement on that. We're going to have the RTX 5000, RTX 50 series is coming. The RX 8000 cards are coming. AMD's new CPUs are coming. Intel's new CPUs. There's a lot coming this year. Not like that. All right. Josh's question is really.
Oh, hang on. Didn't they have a second part to their question of what sites, if their friend can't put one together for them, what sites? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say about the build the computer for you sites is you are paying a pretty decent premium for someone else to put the machine together for you. So that is something to keep in mind.
iBuyPower, CyberPower, Falcon Systems, Falcon Northwest. They're pricey, but they have a reputation. Micro Center is probably your best value to do that. If you have one nearby, hell, if you have one in driving distance, I would still consider that a better value, because just the fact that you could walk into a Micro Center and talk to someone and tell them exactly what you want, and they're not going to try and screw you over, because that's not how they work. They have their reputation for a reason. So to be able to say, look, I want to do this, they are going to get you where you need to go without breaking your bank. So if you could drive to one, that's a good option. Even the cost of the gas going there, you're still going to be ahead rather than just leaving it to a website. So, okay, this is from Josh. Oh boy. Okay. Name is Josh, been a big fan of What the Fuck is Wrong with You for well over 10 years. I always love you and Mike who did these Q&A shows. Thank you very much. On to the question. I'm the writer. Just checked, nearest Micro Center is 3 hours away.
That's a little far.
I'd still drive it. That's me. If
I was going there, if I was going to be in that direction for something, I'd have to have two things.
Yeah.
That I'd be going that far for.
Yeah. All right. Okay, on to the question. I built my PC from the ground up with a little help with my more computer savvy buddy. He's a cybersecurity guy and knows way more than I do. That was more than 12 years ago, so it's time to upgrade. Only updates I've made to it over the years have been I've swapped out the power supply when it died, updated the graphics card about 5 years ago, and updated it from Windows 7 to 10. Not to mention the cleanings, new thermal paste between on now and again. Included an original parts list I bought it for. Besides that, I have an additional 2 terabyte hard drive for my computer previous to it. Main usages for it are my roommates and freelance voiceover work, sometimes some gaming. It needs people to handle large workloads, audio video editing, and be okay with a lot of memory being dedicated to our audio video files. I'd like to get everything swapped out that is necessary to get another 10 plus years without doing too much.
Okay, so that I'm sorry, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Because right now you're looking at the motherboard you have on this and the CPU. It is an i7 2600K.
Yep.
That whole thing has to go. Unfortunately, that's the first thing I'm gonna tell you.
Okay, so my suggestion on this, Nash, is that Josh look at our
build
December build guides, and I would say look at one of our medium builds. Now, the power supply you might be able to keep, but I'd check that too. The case you could probably keep. The rest of it, I mean, I would throw SSDs in there, and
the case and the Blu-ray drive are going to be fine because there's still SATA connectors on motherboards. That Blu-ray drive is a SATA Blu-ray drive. It'll work with no trouble. The case is a little older. I'll put it on screen so people can see. It's a little bit older.
The thing about cases is they rarely go bad.
Right. Like
it may be ugly, it may be unfashionable, it may be hard to work with because things are a little tighter in there.
Yeah. It's not a beautiful thing. You know, it's of its time, but you've got some pretty good air. It's two 120 millimeters with mesh on the front. There appears to be mesh on or vents on top for mounting stuff. I'm presuming the only limitation I'd see here is if you want to try a water cooler, which you don't really have to do, but if you want to do a liquid cooler in there, you're probably stuck with the 240 millimeter because I don't think this can handle a 360 millimeter. I don't think there's enough space in the top for that. So that's the only limitation I'd see. Otherwise, it looks like it can handle most air coolers. There's nothing wrong with the case. Your case is still going to work. You might want to replace it sometime, but no need.
Now, that said, if you wanted to go, just say, hey, new case, and it didn't have to have the internal drive, you could get an external DVD drive relatively inexpensively as well.
Well, Blu-ray.
That's
drive,
what I have.
Not DVD,
Yeah.
Blu-ray. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have. It sits in the closet 99% of the time.
Hard drive should be fine as well. Just understand that we've gone to M.2, so you're probably going to want to add an M.2 drive to get the most out of any sort of upgrade.
Yeah, and honestly, I would take those spinning discs and copy all the data on them. If not to M.2, at least to SSDs.
Yeah.
Just so you can access them significantly faster.
Otherwise, this is just a rough approximation of what I think you should get. I would look into getting a B650 motherboard from AMD. There are multiple Gigabyte I would recommend, MSI I would recommend, Asus I would stay away from right now. ASRock's not so bad either. ASRock is actually a pretty good budget option for a B650 motherboard. DDR5, again, Crucial's good. G-Skill's good. Corsair's good. So those are pretty good ones. You're going to want at least a DDR 6000 set of RAM, no matter what you get.
Okay.
32 gigs would probably be the best option these days.
Yeah.
And for a CPU,
it could go to 64, but 32 should do you.
For a CPU, let's see, is it 7700 or 7800? I think, yeah, the Ryzen 7 7700X is a good, or is there a 7700 non-X? Let's see what the new price on that. 7700. Yeah, I think there's one. Ryzen 7 7700. Let's see. Yeah, there is one available. There's a 7700 available, and that's all. Oof, it's okay. Well, the price is down to about 281. So for the kind of stuff you're talking about, a 7700 would be nice. 7600 is also an option as well. It would be worlds faster than what you have right now. The advantage of getting B650, you're not going to get 10 years out of what you're going to get next, but you will get a good long life out of it because presumably the way AMD has said, and now this is based on how AMD has presented this stuff, there are going to be 2 more CPU generations beyond this one that you'll be able to get out of that B650 motherboard. So you'll have a 7000 CPU now and a 9000, or what the HX ones, whatever they call it, the AI ones. Those are coming soon. If you want to get those, I wouldn't. The current generation is just fine. And then in a few years down the line, you can get whatever follows that. And that will keep all you need. There'll be a drop-in replacement CPU. You'll be able to keep the RAM, the motherboard, everything else, and a slight, upgrade on the CPU. If that power supply you got isn't at least 700 watts, I would look at upgrading that as well. Because that's something, if you want it to last a while, it needs to be at least a 700 watt power supply. You've got a 1050 Ti graphics card. That's not the worst thing.
No,
it's not new. It's not the best. It still functions just fine. It's not good. And it's not going to have any impact on any work you do with it, which means it's not going to hinder doing audio video or doing audio recording or any of that stuff or watching stuff on it. That 1050 Ti is still perfectly fine for that sort of stuff. It's a little slower for gaming, and you may want to update it at some point.
If it's in your budget and you can find a deal, I would say update it now. But
otherwise, it's not going to hurt a dang thing to keep that for a while if you want to.
And, oh, by the way, any parts that you replace, I would recommend, if you're comfortable with that, if they're still in good condition, You could probably eBay them,
Yeah.
recover a little bit of your costs, because there are going to be people who are still looking for stuff like this for legacy projects that they need to support.
And yeah, and there's also some issues where I found with older components, there are mission critical systems that have to stay in place using older components. So
Yep.
there is a market for them for that reason. So the i7 2600K was just a beast back in the day. That is one of the most impressive CPUs that Intel's ever released. I'm amazed how long people have been able to get life out of that thing, but it's a little too it's too far gone now. You're probably going to have to
For
do
regular home use. But yeah, you, like I say, you might find someone who goes, I need one of those to keep this other system. I need 2 or 3 backups just in case something happens with this system and I need it.
Yeah.
I need it up.
It's going to take a while. Oh, got another question come in. We were busy tonight. EGC writes in, I'm soon to get my equivalent of a tax return. I'm thinking of upgrading my RAM. My platform is AM4 X570. I've been going from 16 gigs of DDR4 to 32 gigs. Currently convenient options in my nearby stores. Let me see. Okay, open this up, put this over here. So it's a choice between Corsair and Team Group. Honestly, I
say flip a coin.
Yeah, I have not. Let me have a look at these on screen here. It is no, I do not accept your cookies. Go away. Dang it! Fuck your cookies. Go away. No, necessary. Everyone, go away with your damn cookies. Vulcan Tough Gaming Alliance DDR4 desktop memory. Let's see what the stats are on this. 3200 megahertz CL16, and the Corsair is tech specs, please. Speed on these. What is it? Where's the listing the speed here? 3200 CL16. So, yeah. So they're about the same, honestly. Pretty much comes down to whichever aesthetic you like better and which one you get a better deal on.
Yeah, like I said, flip a coin.
Yeah.
I've had no problems with either brand.
Team Groups are they're not like a super big player, but they're reliable. Never heard anybody say they're a bad brand or anything. Corsair, you're kind of buying the name with Corsair. Just whichever one is a better, you can get a better deal on, is what I would look to for this, because the stats are almost identical. You'll be getting about the same performance from either one because they have the same timings. Why is this website does not do downward scrolling? What is wrong with you? Who hurt you, website?
What nation is it?
I don't know.
I only asked because the questioner said my equivalent of a tax return. So I'm assuming they're Canadian or somewhere else. And I say, and I'm not. This is not racist. In some nations, they have a different standard of how things are supposed to be on the internet. Like, no. You scroll down instead of doing this. What's wrong with you? Sort of stuff. And I don't pretend to understand it.
Well, this is a .com webpage. It's a bad webpage. Somebody should be fired for it. So,
I mean, I can say that about half the web pages I use at work.
Yeah. Either between the two of these, just based on the stats alone, they're both reputable brands. Whichever one you can get a better deal on, and heck, if you care about it aesthetics wise, because one of them's got those gold. They're Tough Gaming, so I assume they're made in coordination with Asus. So it's got that gold and black aesthetic, and then the Corsair's just got the black with the gold yellow lettering. So whichever one you think looks better, honestly, and whichever one you get a better deal on. That's what it's about the same thing.
Keep in mind there are plenty of people who have bought computer components based off of this matches the color concept on my computer.
Now you can get a little more granular into it. You could be like, who makes the RAM itself? Is it Samsung chips? Are they SK Hynix chips? Is it Micron? Based on, which overclock's better, what can you do, blah 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 blah. But that's getting way into the weeds. And unless if you don't know enough to care about that, you're probably just going to plug it in and use it as is.
Now, there are some cases where you should go, oh, it was this manufacturer who made it. Didn't Nash and Mike do a story about them being like utter garbage a few weeks ago? If that triggers something, then yeah, look at it and go, you know what, they did. I'll get the other one.
And speaking of, just to clarify what I said about Asus, I refer to them quite a bit. Gamers Nexus just put out a video where they're looking through Asus's warranty practices. I must have gotten lucky when I sent my motherboard in, because the crap they've put them through over their Ally, it was Ally X. It was one of those handheld portable.
You may have not gotten lucky so much as you were in early.
Whatever happened, it was just watch the videos. Asus is a mess right now. I wouldn't trust them. So,
but we still use their routers.
You know what? I'm starting to. I know it's weird to say, but if this is how they're going to be handling, you should watch it. If this is how they're going to be handling their warranty stuff, I'm leaning more towards Netgear, Nighthawk stuff. I never thought I'd say that, but crap.
Next year, you're going to say you're going to eat your steak well done, Nash. So let's just not go there.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back next Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern. If you have tech questions for me and Mike, you can send those to requests@radiodeadair.com, or you can put them in the comments to this video on YouTube. Until next time, for Mike and myself, we will see you then. Have a good week. Good night, everybody.